Beautiful. Let's do it. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I am your host, John Harris. Today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have My Dying Bride, who has a new EP called Macabre Cabaret, which is releasing on November 20th via Nuclear Blast Records. And right now I'm being joined by Andrew to share some more information about this release and what the band has got going on. And then the cool thing about this, Andrew, is that this will be like episode, 800 and something. But on episode 650, I was able to sit down with Aaron, just like I'm sitting down with you right now. We were chatting about The Ghost of Orion. And I remember he dropped that the EP would be coming. And so now we get a chance to chat about this. So I just wanted to welcome the band back on and welcome you on to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is a cool thing because The Ghost of Orion, which I have, hit number 12 on the German album chart. So congratulations on the album doing very well.
Yeah, we were probably more surprised than everybody to see that in charts. We still consider ourselves as a very much an underground band. I know we're not tape trading anymore, like in the olden days, I suppose. But it was a very welcome surprise. We needed some good news, and that was certainly, we considered that very good news, but it was a shock, I'll tell you that.
Now, you mentioned because you guys consider yourselves to be a bit of an underground band, but I guess I was going to ask, why is it such a shock? Because it's a great album.
Well, thank you, firstly. Thank you. It was genuinely a shock because we deliberately, well, not deliberately, I suppose we don't write commercial music. And I think that's fairly obvious. So when we see ourselves rubbing shoulders with, I'm not necessarily saying these bands were writing deliberate commercial music, but significantly more popular or more accessible bands than My Dying Bride. It was a bit of a, we were only there briefly, but it was still a good shock. But so we were surprised because, like I said, we write music that's very oblique, very left of center, and all that kind of thing. Very much a unique or an acquired taste. Let's say it's not everybody's cup of tea. So to suddenly see your name next to significantly larger bands, that I don't know. I wasn't ready for that. That was a great surprise to see that.
Yeah, it almost sounds like somebody had to say, Andrew, we need you to sit down for a second. We have some news.
Yeah, it was close.
Now, you mentioned that you guys needed that good news. I guess maybe unpackage that, if you wouldn't mind. Take us through that. Why did you guys need some good news?
Well, if you've spoke to Aaron about the process of the Ghost, the writing and recording of a Ghost, or the Ghost of Orion, sorry, you've probably been given either a brief overview of how miserable his life was because of his daughter's illness, very serious, and if not, you've been given an in-depth version. Neither one is very, it's not easy listening. But on the back of that, we had two members leave. Both of them very unexpectedly, considering there was no fallouts or arguments in the rehearsal rooms or in the recording. So it was a very, it took the wind out of our sails when Calvin left first and then Sean left a couple of months afterwards with no real rhyme or reason. We've worked all out since. So we soldiered on, as we say, and it was very little fun. As much as My Dying Bride's like considered doom and gloom, in the engine room of My Dying Bride, it's very much great fun for those who like doing this type of music. We all laugh, we joke, we have I shouldn't really say this, but we have a jolly old time creating.
Not you guys, Andrew. You can't spoil it for us.
I've blown us cover now. Behind the scenes, we normally have a lot of fun, but there was none of that on this record. It was really I don't mind hard work. It wasn't that was making it miserable. It was just the circumstances around it. So to see the album finished was great news, and to see it was not particularly bad, we thought we had something. And then to actually see, and I really mean this, as unexpected as it was to see us pop into the charts ever so briefly, but even that was good enough. It was like, well, that's great news. And we were like, what the fuck do you do with great news? No one knew how to take it. We waited for the bad news to follow, but none came. So it was like, I don't know, almost like It was strange, but it was so welcome. It was untrue, and we shared it about 4 times around each other just to make sure it was real. Then we all went online and checked, and yeah, it was real.
I think that's always the worst, isn't it? When good news comes and you're expecting the tumble, but there's no tumble, and then you're really worried at that point.
Yeah, we're so paranoid at that point. It was untrue. Touch wood and all that superstitious stuff. We've ridden that particular storm only to roll directly into the present, situation the world finds itself in. So we were like thinking, could it get any worse? And I don't even want to say that anymore because a meteor will land mid-interview and decimate a lot of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you bring up a very interesting question because I knew that an EP was coming. It seems like for current knowledge, the marketing plan is going still to plan kind of regardless of COVID. But I mean, I guess take us through this year, and did you guys turn it into a blessing? Was it kind of a blessing in disguise? Did it completely ruin things? How did COVID affect My Dying Bride this year?
It did it well. The first thing it did to everybody, all bands, and not just rock and heavy metal. It killed the gigs. That's a given, I suppose. Now it sounds obvious. So we don't do very many gigs anyway, but they were sat back, and they've all been pushed into next year. And fingers crossed, they'll survive that, and we'll go and play next year. As for releases and this EP and the work that we were doing on this EP, it didn't change that in any way, thankfully. The actual album was delayed so many times that when it did come out, that actual release date sort of put this release date on the map. Because we knew we were doing an EP back then, because when we delivered the album to Nuclear Blast, they said it was too long and we had to chop it up a bit, which we weren't prepared for because we just wrote a long album like My Dying Bride tends to do. So when suddenly we found ourselves having to pull 3 songs, that was a tough decision, choosing which ones. And then we found ourselves with an EP that we could remix and then rewrite in a couple of instances and just play with it, but leave it on the back burner for them. But it didn't really change anything. But apart from the gigs, and obviously not being able to rehearse, even though we've had quite a few rehearsals since in the gaps between lockdowns, it's from that point of view, it was just as demoralising as you can imagine. But from a promotion point of view, it didn't really change anything. Nuclear Blast still did what they were going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned something about speaking of the label. They said the album's too long. You've got to pull 3 songs. You said it was tough to choose, and then a bit of remixing and rewriting in a couple of instances. So I guess take us through that process. What was it like choosing those 3 songs? Which children have to go later, I guess, to create a cohesive element that is now the album that is being broken up, and now an EP. What was that? What was that like?
Initially, we sort of quietly, and the immediate reaction was, oh, really? That kind of, but then when myself and Aaron sat down and looked at this, when we started to pull particularly Macabre Cabaret out of the mix and A Purse of Golden Stars, The Secret Kiss was the tough one. Because we wanted, if we were going to, we sat down and said, right, okay, how do we turn this, what is potentially not bad news, but it's not what we expected, but how do we capitalize on it, if you will, make it into something good. There's no point resisting this. It's taking place. How do we make it as good as possible? So we chose a song that we thought was strong enough to headline the EP. Macabre Cabaret stood out as a big song for us. We loved the title. A Purse of Golden Stars, we pulled that mainly because it was a toss-up between that one and The Solace. And I really wanted The Solace left on the album, because when we listened to the album without Macabre Cabaret and A Purse of Golden Stars, in the order it fell into, it's suddenly Nuclear Blast were very, very right, very, very right indeed. The album felt better, felt more precise. It flowed in a more, cohesive manner without sounding too pretentious about all of this. So the tough one was which one was going next. And I think unfortunately, I don't really know. It was The Secret Kiss. And that one, I quite liked it because of the pinch harmonics. It reminds me of when we were kids, we're doing demos and we just put pinch harmonics over everything because we loved the band Death, which of course everybody knows about. and going back to Scream, Bloody Gore and Leprosy, that's what they did a lot of. And we stole that idea from them and still use it today. But unfortunately, it was, I wouldn't like to say, I don't think relegated. I think it's a strong lineup for the EP. And ultimately, we got behind it. And, I think I genuinely think it's a strong piece of work now. And particularly with the artwork as well. We were surprised that we got involved with a chap, an Italian chap called Roberto Bordan, I think you would pronounce it. And he has sunk completely into this, from an esoteric level. He's seen things in it we didn't see, and he's almost delved into these dark arts. It's almost like the artwork is now, it's almost like ingredients for a spell. That within the artwork is the key to creating this spell. It's really quite strange, and you've got to see it to believe it. And if you actually see his workings out, you would expect frogs' legs and bat wings in there as well. It's just bizarre, and we loved it.
Yeah. Now, one of the, I guess, leads me to my next question, Andrew, is seeing this whole thing come together, because you were working on it, kind of inside it. Now that you're seeing these sort of external workings, does it change the meaning at all for you on the work?
A little bit, yeah, because obviously we have our preconceived ideas of what, and this may sound a little bit odd, but the music has a picture in your mind, which I'm sure most people can grasp if they're into music. It has a shape or a colour or something like that. But it's not one that's distinguishable in the sense of you wouldn't be able to draw it out right now. But it has a feel that has a distinct sort of, I don't know, a quantifiable something, which I can't quite describe, which is probably an oxymoron. But when Roberto got hold of this and with his in-depth approach to it, which I've never seen an artist do, and I really mean this. This is new. I mean, the album cover for A Ghost of Orion blew us away. It was phenomenal. But this guy's, he's sent us his workings out. So I'll read some out. Like he's gone for like the number 3, because there's officially 3 songs on the EP. So he's then working on, well, the chemical number for lithium is 3, the cure for depression and bipolar pathology. He says number 3 is a major arcana number. 3 is the Empress. And he says it's a triptych from the Middle Ages. Now, we like that because we've done that in the past. And he will divide the artwork into 3 separate pieces, which he's done. And he's put down the 3 stages of truth for Arthur Schopenhauer. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure I can Google that. And he puts all these reasons why it should be 3, And he's created a new logo for the band. He's created a sigil for the band. I'm telling you, this guy, this is almost witchcraft in itself, in the way he's put this together. We sat back and thought, wow, fuck me, this is all right. We can live with this.
Mm-hmm. Witchcraft indeed. You just brought up tarot cards.
It's close. I think, I mean, to be fair, I bet if we asked him, it wouldn't take him long to delve into that. This is well thought out. And the artwork itself is very impressive, as a heavy metal artwork type of fan. I mean, I think it goes hand in hand that rock fans and metal fans love the album covers. It's part and parcel of what makes us tick. And I think this stands up very well. It's a really impressive piece of work. It makes the music rubbish.
Well, speaking of that rubbish, we have
to pick, pull a socks up on the next one if we're going to get art like this.
Exactly. Sweet. So speaking of such rubbish, we've got the teaser, Secret Kiss, and then as we mentioned, the big track, the title track, Macabre Cabaret. I guess take us through this song, and there's a music video that's going to be accompanying it. You mentioned there's quite a bit of theatrics to it. So take us through this. When compiling the EP, something else you mentioned was doing a little bit of rewriting, a little bit of remixing. What, I guess, became the new intention for these 3 songs when they got brought together? And with this track, because it's the longest one on the EP, what is this track about? Well,
the thinking, or the basics, I mean, I don't write the lyrics, so I can only give you sort of a glossed over approach to the actual lyrical content, of the lyrical subjects, if you will, in the song. And it's along the lines, how did he say it now? It's like fiery lovers in a sort of not necessarily a dance, but well, in the sense that the title is the reflection of the song's sort of subject, a macabre cabaret, a dance that's just so insanely grotesque and yet beautiful, oddly beautiful, and somehow sort of darkly poetic. And then obviously the behind Macabre Cabaret is actually the process of the song, of the sort of elements within these two subjects that Aaron has decided that are in some sort of tortuous relationship. I can't say much more than that. I think that's not actually so far away from it, to be fair. The other two, A Purse of Golden Stars, I think that's just about blessings in the sense of, without going too deeply, I think it relates to his daughter's scenario a little bit, but he did tend to shy away from that and keep some of these very close to his chest. And A Secret Kiss, the basics rather, are oddly enough witchcraft, and how when you, well, I say you as if we've ever done this, but when you would, if you were a witch, let's say, and you had to fly to the coven and meet your master, big, Satan himself, you had to perform a particular greeting, which, as we all know, if you looked into this, is quite rude nowadays, and you wouldn't want to do it on an interview. But The Secret Kiss is about in and around that kind of thing. Let's just people can Google that now and think, oh Christ, is that what he meant? They're writing about that now? Yes, we are. But one of the cool things, just keeping it sane before I go off track completely, on Macabre, we have a small section where Aaron's daughter actually comes in and does some very ghostly and ethereal vocals that we recorded by pure chance when she came in once just to visit the studio. And it sounds very unique and very eerie in the background, like if it's an old horror film and there's a child ghost in the walls trying to get a message out. And we have that in the centre, which was a nice touch because she was fit and well by then. So it was a nice touch for her to make a small appearance on the album. And as Aaron said jokingly, he said, "I've not fucking paid her."
Child labor.
Your daughter, you rip her off. A touching moment when he openly said that. It was brilliant.
Well, then I guess maybe from a guitar perspective, when you're writing something, does it have a particular meaning to you before lyrics get to it?
Sometimes, but that can confuse the issue later on when I think the song should lean one way, but the lyrics lean in an entirely different direction. So as much as I still do that, I tend to allow it to be let go much sooner than I used to do. And I didn't realize I was clinging on to these things as well. It was something I learned over time. For example, we had I think it's actually one of the only songs that is on this sort of recording session, EP, is Macabre Cabaret, where the lyrics and the title matched, where we were writing the song in rehearsal when Aaron was still away with his daughter. He wasn't coming to rehearsal at this point. And we wrote the song and we gave it a title and we deliberately made it sound like it does based on the title. And it was down to Sean on violin and keyboards at the time. We were writing the guitar lines and we were enjoying it. It was coming around, but he was being very naughty, let's say. He wasn't taking it all that seriously, and he played some particular patches on the keyboard that simply didn't fit. It made us sound like we were some old men in a working men's club. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, why are you doing, you know what I mean? And we're all laughing. But one of them was so odd, it stuck. And that's when we came up with the idea. I said, this just sounds like some sort of Macabre Cabaret. And the song title stuck, and what he did kind of stuck, and we darkened it a little bit. So it's actually young Sean's fault, this one, because he won't take the band seriously. So it was one of those moments where out of absolute comedy came a giant of a song, because if you actually saw how we put it together, you wouldn't believe. There was plenty of tears, but it was all tears of laughter as we built this song while he paid no attention to what we were doing and just tried to ruin the rehearsal for fun.
That bugger.
all of that. Yeah, exactly that. So it was quite good fun.
Beautiful. All right. Now, I also have a note. Maybe you can't say anything about this, but a hidden gem on the physical editions. Is it an extra track that we get?
Of sorts. It's an instrumental of cello music. We couldn't resist doing it. Yeah, and it's just a little bit of ear candy, if you will. It's really quite nice. We didn't want to spoil the trilogy feel, so we hid it. But we just couldn't help us. We had so much material. We were in the studio, and I don't know if you've ever worked with a band in the studio when something takes life and you can't stop it. It was one of those moments, and it was like, where does it go? And we're like, we'll have to hide it somewhere, or else we'll get in trouble, because it's supposed to be with 3 on. It's like, fucking Jesus. And it just grew very quickly. And everybody enjoyed it, and just, let's just do it. What have we got to lose? Nothing really, And it was just a bit of fun. But it's a very nice piece of music, and it's just buried in there, just for fun, really. Our type.
Well, it sounds like things are turning for the positive, Andrew. It's terrible news.
Yeah, well, we won't be having any of that round.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I believe we chatted about everything that I had. A question about 2 tracks, the EP itself, the hidden gem, coronavirus. We hit, I think, every nail on the head. Unless there's anything that you wanted to chat about that I didn't bring up, I just wanted to thank you for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
No, I'm just very happy to be here, and it's been a great pleasure and a very enjoyable chat. It's been a wonderful little interview. Thank you.